Hello and welcome to Catamount Community Connection, our weekly Sunday feature on Catamount Radio. I'm Brian Collamore, and I host the show each and every week. And for an hour, we talk with, all kinds of different folks, community leaders from business, professional, nonprofit, and, yes, political arenas. Our show is brought to you by the Rutland County Agricultural Society, which has brought you the Vermont State Fair at Rutland since 1846. And it's coming up, folks, August 13th through 17th, so don't forget the 178th Vermont State Fair here in Rutland. By the way, Tyler Hubbard will be the last act on Saturday, and I would just urge you to get your tickets early. Don't wait. These will go very quickly. You can go on to ParamountVT.org right now and buy your tickets for the Tyler Hubbard concert, which is that Saturday, the last night of this year's Vermont State Fair. A big act, and he's coming in, and he'll perform that night, and I know everybody will enjoy it. So today, we are going to be talking with Lyle Jepson, the Executive Director of CEDRR, and Chrispin White, who's the Events Manager. CEDRR, of course, if you have been paying attention, and I know we don't take notes and test people that are listening about what CEDRR is, but the fact is it's the Chamber and Economic Development of the Rutland Region, therefore CEDRR. And we've had these folks on a couple, maybe 3 times in the past, but I like to at least give them a chance maybe every quarter to come in and talk about what's new in terms of economic development in the Rutland region and all that sort of stuff. So welcome in to you both. I don't know who wants to kick things off, but I guess I can just ask, what's new out there?
Well, good morning, Brian. Thank you for having us. Well, what's new? You can't miss all the construction projects going on. If you have not been up to the Killington Access Road recently, take a drive by there. Completely redesigned by Markowski's Excavating, and they are going to be reopening the access road on July 19th to two-way traffic. It will be a gravel surface until they get everything paved. But the mountain biking activity is really taking off up there in Killington, so they want to make sure the roads are open, and it will be a much safer route for people to travel once that happens. So Markowski's doing that. And, of course, you see different line arrangements in town on Woodstock Avenue and on Main Street in Rutland, and there are just lots of things going on. If you go up through Pittsford, you're going to see Belden Construction putting the new bridge in up on Route 7. So a lot of money is coming to the county and staying with our local contractors and their employees.
I know one of the reasons, maybe the main reason, where they redid the access road intersection where it meets Route 4, it wasn't so bad going up. And elevation is elevation. You're not going to make the mountain any less high. So at some point, you still do have to climb in order to get to, the base lodge. But the problem was coming down off the access road, especially obviously in the winter when the conditions might favor a little bit of slipping and sliding. So they've made the pitch a little less severe, I guess, right? Absolutely.
And yeah, you could slide into Route 4 in the past if you weren't careful. And so it will. It's going to be a nice on-ramp to going up the mountain and coming down. And you're going to see sidewalks in the future. You're going to see bike lanes. It's going to be very pedestrian-friendly and car-friendly.
And they got the best guys working on that, in my view, Markowski's, who have done so much good work throughout the state and especially in Rutland County. Further down Route 4, if you continue, is the water line, which is going to go up and help the massive project that's underway. And we've got a local contractor doing that too, right?
Absolutely. So Casella Construction is in the process of putting in the water line that will go from really the Route 4 area behind Dreammaker Bakers, where there's a whole lot of water, and they're going to be bringing that up the mountain as part of the Killington Village Resort project. It's an $83 million project overall to put in the infrastructure and bring the water up the mountain and fix the roads up in anticipation of some significant growth regarding residents that will be built there. You're probably aware that Great Gulf, a Toronto-based company, is part of that development. They will be doing the construction. Within 20 years, they anticipate 2,300 units of new housing on the mountain, and that'll be a mix of houses and apartments and condominiums. It's quite a development for our region. In addition to that, because the water's going up in the mountain and because we have local contractors working on it, and the nice part was, I guess nice, the winter wasn't severe. Casella Construction was able to work through the winter, and so they're right on schedule. And what will be constructed initially will be about 230 to 250 units of condominiums, and there'll be some commercial construction. So there'll be almost 110,000 square feet of commercial construction in the Killington Village area when they finish up that part of the project. So some exciting things happening, and the exciting thing for us in economic development is local contractors, local people, money staying local. And the money goes back and forth 7 different times as you spend the dollars in the county. That's pretty exciting stuff. Yeah,
the Village Center at Killington has been on the table and on the calendar for so many years. People, I'm talking 25, 30, 40 years ago, people dreaming about being able to bring this to fruition. And we had a legislative presentation by Great Gulf. Maybe you were there, I think, Lyle. They had quite a breakfast for us, too. We had roast beef for breakfast. It was really something special. But the thing that I'll always remember, somebody made the comment that if you're a local person, maybe in your early 20s, mid-20s, you could actually start a business, of a trucking business, let's say, and you are guaranteed almost 25 full years of employment by just bringing drywall and paint and steel and whatever else they're going to need. That really resonated with me, to think that you could actually start up your own company and be guaranteed, unless you really foul things up, that you're going to have employment for 20 or 25 years, and good employment. These are good jobs that we're talking about too.
Absolutely.
So, fantastic. For those of you listening that aren't aware of this is a massive, massive project that's going on up at Killington, and it's going to help, in my view, the whole region. You talk about those sort of waves of success that trickle down. And I think it's going to be great for the whole Rutland County region. So.
Well, and it's a true example of a public-private partnership. There is the three-legged stool up there that is the town itself and the select board and the community members. Then there's the resort, and then there's Great Gulf. And you have a perfect combination of recreation, outdoor recreation, with housing, with a town that is gearing up for more people to come. So you'll see the town of Killington begin to perhaps hire more police officers, hire more fire department folks, because they recognize there's going to be a whole lot more going on in the community, and they're ready.
Yeah. Crispin White is with us as well, and we can talk a little bit about some of the events coming up. I know we got some ribbon cuttings to talk about, Crispin, and some mixers. And
we do.
It's always good to see you. How you doing?
I'm doing very well, thank you. Thanks to be here.
Oh, yeah.
Some great events coming up. We are working with a lot of our local businesses, new businesses, to really increase the awareness, let people know they're there, and to give them an opportunity to share information with the community. So we're going to be starting off on Tuesday, July 9th with Kaleidoscope Art Supply on Center Street. She's on the second floor there, and it's Raven Crispino. She's a wonderful community member, and we're going to be doing a ribbon cutting for her that morning on the 9th at 11 a.m. So we're inviting the community to come down to see what she has to offer and really get excited about not only the supply she's offering at the art store, but also a lot of the events that she's creating and workshops and classes that she's going to be offering. So it's an exciting new business in downtown Rutland, and we're excited to support her in any way we can.
So I'm guessing, I've been around long enough to remember Eastman's.
Correct.
Which was a kind of a art supply store at one point. I think, well, they were on Merchants Row as far as I remember.
Yeah.
But they might have even been located when Bob Eastman first started out in some other location downtown. Is this going to be a similar sort of store?
It's smaller in nature, but and I'm going to say a little bit more creative, because they're going to have a lot of different options, working with a lot of local artists to sell their offerings in the store as well. But anybody who's creative and into art, there will be everything available for them in the store.
Okay, so that
great opportunity.
Open house, ribbon cutting, whatever, is on the 9th of July. You
Correct.
guys have a mixer that night, too, I think.
Mixer that night at Four Seasons Sotheby's. That's one that everybody gets excited about every year. This year is going to be a garden party theme. So I would encourage everybody to come to this one because it's a wonderful opportunity to engage with local community and business leaders and really have a good time.
So tomorrow, it seems unlikely, but tomorrow's July 1st, believe it or not. And all of a sudden, here's the 4th of July week ahead of us. And I always feel like July 4th is sort of like halfway through summer, but it doesn't even feel like we've started, and yet here we are. So what else do we have coming up in July for CEDRR?
We're working with T-Mobile. They opened up their new location back in December, and they're up on Route 7 in the CVS Plaza.
Oh, yeah.
We're working with them to have a grand opening ribbon cutting. And then we're working with the Vermont Covered Bridge Society to do a ribbon cutting for the Kingsley Covered Bridge in East Clarendon.
Oh.
And just received the date on that. That'll be July 25th from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. And it's an opportunity. This covered bridge has been closed down for quite some time, and they want to highlight this. So this is going to be a collaboration between the Outer Okemo Valley Chamber and CEDRR. So it's going to be a great celebration to really have people see what this covered bridge is all about. It's a beautiful area. They're going to have food, drink, a lot of speeches, and just really highlight that opportunity.
I think I did get an invite, or at least I was.
You got it, yeah.
Yeah, but I didn't have the date. So
exactly.
Thank you for
I actually got it early this morning. So.
All right, so July 25th for that. That'll
exactly.
be great.
That'll be excellent. Yeah.
And I know we can look ahead to August for our.
Well, looking into August, we're going to have our mixer August 13th at Killington. So that's something that we're excited about, to get a little bit outside of the city of Rutland and really showcase that area up there. So they're really excited to have us join them and host that event.
Yeah, this is something that I think has been too long in coming, this growing relationship, if you will, between the mountain and the town. And, we used to call it town gown where I was in Middlebury at one point. But it's certainly growing, it's thriving, it's complementary on both ends. And, we know that we need them and they need us. And it's always been, well, not always. I think there was a time when there might have been a little bit more friction between the two, but certainly that's long past. And we look forward to continuing great relations with
definitely, because we're neighbors, and we're working with the Killington Pico Area Association to collaborate on different things in the future. So there's no reason not to. I mean, we are neighbors. We're all part of the same community. So we're looking to have some fun together and see what we can do to highlight the entire area.
And that mixer will be at the K1 Base Lodge. And if you have not seen the K1 Base Lodge, only escalator in the county of Rutland, I believe. Beautiful spot. You can look up the mountain. Lots of glass. It's a marvel, architectural marvel on the mountain.
And by then, well, I don't know. Maybe the access road will still be unpaved. Maybe
unpaved, but passable.
Yeah,
passable.
for sure.
Yep.
Okay. Do we want to talk about the Whoopie Pie Festival, or do we want to wait on that, or what?
We can talk about that. We're in planning mode for the Whoopie Pie Festival. It'll be Saturday, September 14th from 12 until 5. We are still working with Dreammaker Bakers. Last year, they created a 770-pound Whoopie Pie. This year, their goal is a 900-pound Whoopie Pie, in hopes of next year breaking the record of 1,062 pounds.
Maine hold that?
Yes.
I'm trying to remember. Okay.
Yeah, South Portland, Maine. Correct. Huh. So they're very excited about the possibility of breaking the record. The community is excited, and we're looking forward to have 4,000 or 5,000 more people in downtown Rutland to celebrate this whole event. Yeah. It's a collaborative event for all the community. We have activities, events, and all kinds of things to bring people downtown to celebrate.
Yeah, for those of you that haven't attended yet, I don't know why you haven't, but we closed Center Street off, and they put
and Merchants Row
Row. the turf down. Right?
Yes, exactly.
And
exactly.
it's just a party. I mean, it's great.
Well, and special thanks to Carpenter and Costins for 5,000 square feet of turf just outside Wonder Feet Kids Museum, where Wonder Feet and Come Alive Outside will have activities going on all day long for kids. Again, as Chrispin said, it's a collaboration of many organizations. Rutland Rec is supportive, the City of Rutland, just a whole lot of collaboration, and that's what makes it exciting.
And the farmers market is going on as well, so it brings, again, so many people to downtown Rutland. It's a fun-filled day, and, fingers crossed for great weather. But can't control that. But other than that, it's going to be really exciting this year with all the added events we're putting in as well. So.
And special shout out to our signature sponsor, Casella Waste Systems. We appreciate their support, as we do all of our sponsors.
Yeah, we've got some really outstanding local businesses here in Rutland County. Too many of them, I think, too many of them go unnoticed, if you will. Which is too bad, but certainly Casella and you mentioned Russell Corp and Markowski's are three of the more, I guess, recognizable names, but there's others, right? Mm-hmm.
And there are. And so if you look around, we have some hidden gems.
Yeah.
And they include Ann Clark Cookie Cutters. If you go down and you go down 112 Quality Lane, at the very end of the road is a nondescript building that builds and sells about 4 to 5 million cookie cutters every year. Ann Clark Cookie Cutters has about 65 to 70% of the U.S. market of cookie cutters. And that's in the millions. Yeah. And it comes right out of Rutland Town on 112 Quality Lane. They have really found the sweet spot using Amazon, and they've found a product that people really enjoy, and they're expanding that. So that they now are working on food coloring and other products that go along with baking, so that you can buy the whole package from Ann Clark Cookie Cutters. They're on a growth mode. There are other companies like Hirschman Windows and Doors. Yep. A visit down there, you will see 11, 12-foot doors that are just the base of a huge wall of windows. And so they make the windows, they make the doors very high-end. They work exclusively with folks that have some money and that are able to pay for their product. And again, it's right here in West Rutland and in Center Rutland, 2 different locations employing a whole lot of us, and that's great.
The other thing I'll mention, the Hub Co-works, I happened to go to a meeting just recently with Pathways, which is a homeless prevention group. And when I was up there, I was still impressed with all of the available space there. And I'm hoping by us coming on the radio from time to time and talking about it, we will find other people that are saying, "Oh, I didn't know that was there," kind of thing. But how are things going there?
So we're finding that the rental of classroom space, the high-tech classroom space, has taken off. Every day there's something going on. We're working more on marketing the co-working space. It's probably a new concept, quite frankly, for Rutland folks and people in our county. So you're going to see a whole lot more advertising on that. Exciting things that will be happening there. We will be starting in the fall a Co-Starters Business Development Program, and that's a 10-week program for folks that would like to start their own business and maybe really good at something. Let's say you're really good at making cookie cutters, but you're not quite sure how to commercialize that and market that. This program will guide people through knowing your customer, having the right legal documents put together, the structure and system of your business, financial planning, that type of thing, and marketing. So it'll be a good program. Co-Starters is a national program, which will lead eventually, if you really are ready to launch and you want to get into an accelerator where you may be bringing your business to a higher level than just, say, a bricks and mortar location. We have teamed up with Generator, which is the 3rd largest business incubator in the nation, through our Startup Rutland program. Mose Casaro runs that program, and there will be capital opportunities so that there could be funding after someone goes through the accelerator. It's going to be an exciting moment as fall arrives, because both of those programs are taking off in the fall.
It might be helpful if we just mention the size of the classrooms up at the Co-works or at the Hub you can have a really small group, like a 6-7 member group that are all set up, and it is all kind of technology based, so you can do Zoom back and forth and still have the in-person meeting, or you can have a larger group. The one I was there, I was going to guess about 15 or 20 people, but very comfortably just sitting around a table and being able to talk about things. And there's more than one classroom, and you can sort of figure out the size that you need and the size that you want and go from there. What's the largest group, and how do people figure all that out?
Yeah, great question. So both of the classrooms will accommodate up to about 30. Beyond that, it's going to be a little cramped. So we have recognized that we need something that's a little larger than that. So you may remember the former Clay's clothing store, which is right on Merchants Row. We are about to fit that up that will accommodate about 70 people. We're going to call that the Street Side Conference Center. It has a little kitchenette in it, bathrooms, everything's right there. One of the TVs for that room arrived yesterday, and it's an 85-inch TV, and they told me that's the small one. It's really going to be high-tech, and it will be for that larger group that exceeds the 25 or 30. We also have smaller conference rooms, so we have a conference room for 10, and then another one for 12. We have a podcasting room we'd love people to come and take a look at and use, so there's lots of opportunity.
And the other thing that people may or may not be aware of, we still have the parking deck. A lot of people will come downtown and then and I've learned this from, I got to go all the way back to 1972. Frank McCormick, who ran the WHWB in those days, the other station, if you drive around the block a couple times, back then at least, you were able to see somebody leaving a space and you'd immediately pull in. So I used to do that, and I still do it all the time, and I'm thinking to myself, why am I wasting my time driving around the block 3 or 4 times? So, of course, the parking deck is still there. And the dovetail with that for me was the other day when Governor Scott was down to Rutland. We had a presentation, and I know you were at the presentation, Lyle, with a Belden group and the TIF district and the new hotel that potentially is going to go in, within a few years. And they're going to use a lot of the spaces that right now are not being used. The stat I remember was about a third of the spaces right now are generally used each and every day. So that's 2/3 of, I think there were 800 spaces.
There's about 600 spots.
600, yep. Okay.
And where can you get parking all day for $3?
Yeah, I know.
It doesn't happen other than, at the Rutland parking garage there. The potential hotel project, were that to come to fruition, probably would use 200 of those spots, perfectly located. And then the 200 folks that are there already daily, there's still plenty of room.
Yeah. And that was a great presentation. I'd seen it before, probably a few months back, but I think the governor was suitably impressed. He seemed to ask good questions. Of course, he's a contractor himself by trade, so he understands construction, and he was asking good questions, I thought, of Kent Belden and his family, who were both there. And it was just a great presentation, and I think he went back as they drove north again with his state police detail. I bet they were talking back and forth about some of the things that they saw in Rutland that day. He also was able to attend the bricklaying at the Justin Thomas Memorial Park, and I did appreciate him being able to do that. I know Roy has been trying to get him to come down for years, so I did make a call to say, look, you're already going to be here at the breakfast. Why don't you just spend a few more hours with us, and we can show you a couple of other good things. And so it worked out, and it was great. And, the Herald was there, and there was a nice picture in the paper last week with that. And so things are happening in Rutland. It's really an exciting time to be here.
It really is. There are a lot of projects being planned. And the nice part about having the governor and his team down looking at what we affectionately call the pit is that many projects hit a roadblock because of cleanup costs that need to take place from whatever was there before. And it has nothing to do with the current owner, but there was stuff there for 50 years. When the hotel burned down, there's stuff in the soil that needs to be taken away. Well, those cleanup costs have skyrocketed, and some stuff has to be taken to as far away as Michigan and stored in Michigan. So we're trucking this stuff that is contaminants to a location, a safer location, is almost cost prohibitive. So the state has a brownfields program, and in that there's funding through the state and through the federal government that helps contractors with problems like that. And so we're hoping to be able to access some funding for that project, whether it's the hotel project or some other project. It needs to get cleaned up so that something can happen on that corner.
We're talking with Lyle Jepson and Chrispin White from CEDRR, the Chamber and Economic Development of the Rutland region. We need to take our first break here on Catamount Community Connection, and we're coming right back. We're back on Catamount Community Connection. I'm Brian Collamore, and with us today, Lyle Jepson and Chrispin White from CEDRR, the Chamber and Economic Development of the Rutland region. And again, our show brought to you by the Rutland County Agricultural Society. Hey, folks, get ready for the 178th Vermont State Fair. It's coming August 13th through 17th. And don't forget, Tyler Hubbard is coming to Rutland on that Saturday. He will be at the fair the final evening on Saturday, the 17th. I would not wait if you're a Tyler Hubbard fan. The tickets are going very quickly, and they'll be gone if you don't do it quickly. So ParamountVT.org is where you can go to buy the tickets right now. You can get them online. There's a whole separate page for what's going on at the fair. I should mention also, let me just scroll over here, because there was something else that's there. Yeah, something called Abducted by the 80s. Wang Chung, A Flock of Seagulls, Naked Eyes. Those folks will be at the fair as well, and you can certainly get tickets for that. Summer Smash is coming up at the fair as well. Anyway, you can go online and get your tickets, and I would urge you to do that, because Tyler Hubbard will sell out quickly, I bet. So, back to where we were. I did want to mention the hotel downtown again. We briefly talked about it, but we did have a really nice presentation the other day, and I wasn't that aware, I guess, Lyle and Chrispin, that the Paramount actually has different acts that they could attract. The problem is there's no place for people to stay overnight. I say no place. It's not as convenient as it might have once been. Correct. And some of the hotels and motels are tied up with other events and other situations. So this will be just an unbelievably great project if we can get it done. And I'm trying to remember, 26 or 27 either apartments will be up there or rooms, hotel rooms. And they've really done a great job with this. And as you mentioned, Lyle, we got to clean up what's below there first. Some of the stuff will go to New Hampshire, the rest of it to Michigan. And then apparently they pour a concrete slab on top of whatever's there after. And then from there they can start building up. And we're looking at a 7-story structure from what I can remember. And again, some of it will be a normal hotel type situation, which would be great for the Paramount. You could have, if a band comes in with 5 or 6 members, all of them could stay overnight. Literally walking across the street to do that, take advantage of all the places to eat and dine and drink downtown. And then there will be others for rent, like apartments. And I know, they mentioned Casella as one that's already kind of said, hey, boy, we'd like to take about 5 or 6 of those because we have employees that we can't find places for. So This is going to be another. I mean, we talked about what's going on up at the mountain, and then this is what's going on in the city, right in downtown, and to me, they seem to be just positive signs.
Well, and if you think all the things that have happened in the last maybe 2 years with the Hub Co-works opening and the work we're doing there, Wonder Feet Kids Museum moving to a new location, the Paramount Theater about ready to embark on a renovation project. And to continue what we were talking about with the Paramount, there are acts that can't come because the multi-day acts, because there really isn't a spot for them to stay, and they do want to stay very local to where they're playing. And just to think about, if say a hotel went into that location, just the rooms and meals taxes that would benefit the city will help in other projects that they want to do, like the Center Street redesign and some other things that are really on the cusp of just about ready to happen. And it will help subsidize a lot of things into the future. You were talking about, the location on the corner there. It's only 900 feet from the train station. So people can walk from the train station if they wanted to that hotel location, if that's what it becomes. And the bus is right there. I think we sometimes lose track of the fact that we do have public infrastructure for transportation. And so if you wanted to come up from New York City on the train, stay at the hotel in downtown, take the bus up and go skiing or mountain biking, it's all right there.
Yeah, amazing, huh? It's like a puzzle, and all the pieces are coming together, and it really, it's going to be absolutely tremendous.
And then people can stop by at the Hub Co-works and do co-working, so it's all there, all the pieces, as you say.
For sure. We've talked a little bit with Chrispin about some of the events coming up, and with Lyle about all of the things that CEDRR does in the area. You mentioned some training for businesses. If you have a great idea and you even have started a business, but you think, well, how do I get to the next level? What's the next step for me to take? This is a valuable sort of tool that CEDRR can offer.
Come see us, for sure. Yep.
You gave me a really nice sheet about some of the things that, kind of everybody always says, follow the money. And, we've had a 2-year look back on some of the economic activity in the area, thanks to CEDRR. And it's amazing what's gone on. Some of it very well publicized, others parts of it not so much. But there's always something going on.
Well, and it's about infrastructure, and that's why, it's nice to have the governor come down and talk about the things that are going on statewide and his initiatives. Certainly there was some controversy during the legislative session this year. You're more than aware of that. And there were some important decisions that were made, and maybe some flashing lights for the future, because we need to look at cost. And businesses outside the state look at Vermont and they look at, well, what are the taxes that we're going to pay? Can we expand in the state? Can we build in the state? And so I know that you were actively involved in some of the debate. There was certainly the veto session, and there were reasons why people voted to sustain the vetoes. Particularly around Act 250 and the expansion of that throughout the state. This current bill, as passed, 687, will help Rutland City, but it may not help the other towns around the community. And you know way more about that. So I don't know if we should turn the speaker back to you, and maybe we ask you questions about what were the highlights for you and as senator from Rutland County, and what are the implications for the future on some of those votes?
No, and that's a fair question, Lyle, and I appreciate that. Just to go back a little bit, there were a total of 8 vetoes that were made in the recently concluded session. One of them, I think it was S18. I remember the topic of the bill more than I do the number. This was one that would have banned flavored tobacco and that kind of thing. And at the time, it was on the calendar for, a couple of weeks, and we just never took it up. And so it became obvious that, part of the job of both and I'm the assistant minority leader, and so the assistant majority leader and I would talk, and they didn't have the votes. It became pretty obvious. That's why we weren't taking it up, because it was not going to pass. It was going to be sustained. So in the end, that particular bill was referred back to the Health and Welfare Committee, where it was quickly put on the wall, and in essence, it died. And in order for something to come out about that next year, a new bill will have to be introduced. So that was one of them. So that left us with 7 bills to be considered during the recently concluded veto session. And you mentioned they're all House bills. Money bills start in the House. That's just sort of a tradition. The Senate doesn't start money bills, the House does. H687, which was the combination of, I said, the Act 250 reform and also the housing crisis bill. 20 votes are needed in the Senate to override a gubernatorial veto. The vote on that one was 21-8. I voted to sustain the governor's veto. All the Republicans did. It did, unfortunately, as sometimes happens, fall again on party lines. But there was one Democrat that joined us. This was a 181-page bill, as I'm remembering, that had many, many good provisions in it. And I think, I believe it was the mayor who probably summed it up best. If you're a House member, your district is smaller. You represent about 4,000 people, more or less. Sometimes that's just one town if the town's big enough. Sometimes it's 2 or 3 towns. And the city reps, on the other side, on the House side, did vote to override that because they felt strongly, as you pointed out correctly, that bill has many good things for the city of Rutland, and since their constituency is basically in the city, they didn't have to worry about Poultney and Fairhaven and Paulet and down that way or up that way or over that way. So those votes, I certainly understand why they voted the way they did. In the Senate, you have more of a 24,000 base in terms of your constituency, so it becomes a little bit more necessary to take a wider view of what a particular bill and particular issues are. In other words, what's good for Rutland City may not be as good for Chittenden or for Killington or whatever. So I did take that sort of wider view, I think. It does help the designated downtown areas. Most, I guess, bluntly you could say, they'll be able to develop without the need for Act 250 permits, basically. They can just go ahead and do it as long as the infrastructure's in place, and obviously you got water and sewer and power, and all of that's pretty much available in downtown Rutland, so you don't have to worry about that end of it.
Well, and can I jump in just briefly?
Sure.
Then the reason I believe that is possible is that there's duplication in permitting through the Act 250 process. The city of Rutland will be able to do the permitting for that construction, and it was duplicative to have Act 250 then asking for the same permits. And I know I'm oversimplifying that, but for Rutland City, it will speed up development and the process for that. But you're absolutely right. The outlying areas will not benefit, and some of the provisions have become more stringent.
Yeah, there's no question. It'll make it more difficult for especially rural areas to have any sort of development. And unfortunately, some of the provisions that I would have supported didn't make it in the final bill. And they're kind of weedy, but if folks want to call me, I'll be glad to talk to you about some of them. There was a 2,000-foot rule, the road rule, where if you have a road going to your home and it's that length, you can't develop. Or you have to go through Act 250, I should say. That was something that a Democrat senator, Senator Dick Sears, who has since passed away from Bennington County, on the floor struck that out of the bill. Unfortunately, it didn't pass, so he and I were on the same page on that. But there were other provisions as well. And again, I just think if you're going to do Act 250 reform, it should be the kind of reform that, while very important, there are areas that are set aside in the state that we don't want to develop. There are other areas that are in rural areas that we do want to develop, at least in my view, but this will make it much more hard to do that. So that's why I voted the way I voted on that one, and 21-8 wasn't by one vote, because they needed 20. It was overridden, and so that will become law. Much discussion about the so-called yield bill, H-887. This is the one that unfortunately will probably mean in some areas a 13 or 14% increase in property taxes. This is the way that we fund our educational system. In some other areas, it's going to be worse. I spoke with Representative Jim Harrison, who represents the Killington area, Chittenden, and Killington, I think he told me, is going to be 28% more in terms of their property taxes. Mendon is somewhere around 22, 23% higher. This was something that, again, I thought the governor did a good job. Back on December 1st, he let the whole legislature know that this was going to be a situation where there was probably going to be at one point an 18 or 20% increase in property taxes. Can't we sort of sit down at a table and work back and forth honestly to reduce the increase? And it didn't come to pass. You know, the suggestion from the administration, there were a couple of sort of menu items that they suggested that we could do, which would mitigate that risk. The school meals program, which right now doesn't have any income base to it, so every kid is able to eat for free, both breakfast and lunch, at all of the public schools in the state. And the reason that the governor wanted to change that and tweak a little bit was he felt that, again, if you make a certain amount of money, a family of four maybe at $150,000 or $175,000, you probably have it, resourced pretty well to buy your own kid his lunch or her lunch. So that was one of the things. We were going to use some of the money that is in reserve to do that, and then borrow back against that. Kind of a complicated process. State Treasurer Mike Pichak was not in favor necessarily of that, but the governor did have other suggestions, and it just didn't happen. The leadership didn't seem interested in sitting down. So that was a 22-7 vote, and again, I was one of the 7 on that.
Well, and one thing that has come out of that bill that I hope is taken very seriously is the committee I believe it's called Future of Education in Vermont. Educational leaders and others will be asked to get together. There's a whole list of folks that will be getting together to really look closely at how are we going to fund a quality education into the future for our students. We have to continue to remind ourselves that the population of students has declined. The cost has gone exponentially up. There are lots of reasons for that, and we can debate all those reasons, but it needs to be affordable for the average Vermonter. And the average Vermonter makes the median household income of the average Vermonter is $62,641. $62,000. The average around the state is close to $74,000. And so it will impact our local region more significantly because of the household median income. You increase something 14%. That's a lot of money for somebody that makes $63,000 a year.
Yeah, and some of the changes and some of the challenges are not going to be easy. We have high schools in Rutland County that are graduating 15, 16, 17, 18 kids every year. And consolidation has got to be at least on the table, I think, to talk about. I know there'll be pushback. I understand the angst involved. Well, this is the way it's always been, and this other school, which is only a few miles away, we're rivals in sports, and it's really... Yeah, I understand that, but I guess the choice is, okay, then we'll just keep going up 14% every year, and you can keep doing what we're doing, or we can really sit down and figure out, is there a better way to handle it? And that's just one of the little pieces of this, but it's going to be, that group will get together, hopefully, and come up with some real solutions to our problem.
Yeah, well, and they're expediting that. The committee, I guess, absolves on December 31st or dissolves on December 31st, so they are planning up to 30 meetings of that group. So it's going to be fast and furious, and it will be interesting to see what comes out of that.
The only other one I'll mention, and I'll be glad to talk about other ones if you want, was the so-called H-72. This was the Safe Injection Bill. And I thought this was important for people to understand why I voted the way I did. The vote on that was 20-9, so only one vote separated it becoming law or not becoming law. I did vote to sustain. I had a long talk, maybe more than once, with Representative Eric McGuire from Rutland, who runs the men's dismiss house in town. And he knows from personal knowledge, Eric is an excellent, excellent guy. And he deals every single day with people who unfortunately have substance abuse issues, not just drugs, but alcohol too. And, he helps them beat the addiction. He helps them get back on track and get jobs and be able to be responsible members of society. But this bill, in my view, had three things that I couldn't vote for it. One of them is there's no age requirement. So the idea here is, and it's going to be in Burlington. So we've allocated $1.1 million to set up a site in Burlington that will allow people to come into the site and use illegal drugs. Because let's be honest, it's still under federal law illegal to use cocaine or some of the other drugs that people use. It just, federal law prohibits that. So if there's no age requirement, doesn't that mean that like a 14 or 15-year-old person could drive up there and shoot or smoke or ingest or however the method is of doing a drug, and nobody would be the wiser? And the answer is yes, because there isn't any age requirement. I also asked 2 other questions on the floor, and I didn't get answers for them. Say somebody from New York or Massachusetts or New Hampshire or Canada wants to take advantage of this. Is there any sort of residency? And the answer is no. So they could actually jump in a car in Plattsburgh with all their drugs on the front seat and drive across. And if they blew through a stop sign or ran a red light or got caught for speeding and got pulled over, and the law enforcement officer looked and said, "What are those?" And, "Well, those are my drugs. I'm headed to the site." And there's nothing you can do about it, basically, because there's no reference in the bill about how close you have to be to the site to sort of get that immunity. So to me, that didn't make any sense at all, that somebody could literally just drive from New York State over and then the third one to me, and maybe the most important, although the age thing to me is critical. If you're gonna do this, good golly, Miss Molly, you got to have 21 or over or something to make sense. But let's say somebody else went in and again took advantage of the site, and then on the way home was involved in a fatal accident. Who's to blame? Who's liable? The fact of the matter is, most of the money is from the settlement money, but it's funded through the state. So if the state of Vermont is funding it with money from the state, doesn't that, by extension, put the state in a really precarious legal position, and they could get sued? And the answer was, we don't know. So those were the 3 things that kind of held me back. And to be fair, Mayor Dunches does not think this is a good idea for Rutland City right now, too.
Well, and I think the governor's stance, correct me if I'm wrong, was use that money for prevention.
Yeah. This will divert funds away from what is proving to be, with Dismiss House and other things, viable techniques for getting people back on their feet and being able to find gainful employment and helping us all out down the road. So anyway, those are the 3.
Well, I appreciate you filling us in on your thoughts and your votes on that. Representing our county is a really important job, so thank you for what you do. Also want to give a shout out to Butch Shaw, who representative from the Pittsford area. He's been at it for 15 years.
Yep.
He's decided that he's going to spend a little more home time. When we announced that at the legislative breakfast, the governor was quick to suggest that there will be committees and other things that he might like to get involved with. Mary, Butch's wife, frowned at that a little bit. So I'm sure we've not heard the last of Butch Shaw, however. So we want to thank him for his service.
Yeah, he and I were fortunate enough to room together for 10 years. Bob Helm was our third part of the trio at one point, but he didn't run again the cycle before this. So, yeah, Butch and I would, it was kind of like a fraternity house in some ways, or, we'd finish the session and we'd eat together at night and talk about what bills were coming up and that kind of thing. But he's just a true, sincere, great representative, and he's been there and long enough. He was a great mentor to me. The Brandon Reporter ran a really nice story about Butch a couple of weeks ago. One of the things that unfortunately Steve Jupiter, who runs that, was not able to kind of fit in the story. Butch taught me that we have 2 ears and 1 mouth, and we ought to listen twice as often as we speak. And I always remember
That's
that.
great.
I thought that was good. So, yeah, we're going to miss Butch for sure. Okay, we need to take one more break, and we've only got about 10 minutes left of the show. We're talking with Lyle Jepson and Chrispin White from CEDRR, the Chamber and Economic Development of the Rutland region, and we'll be right back. And we're back on Catamount Community Connection. I'm Brian Collamore. Happy to be joined today by Crispin White. I'll give you top billing this time, Crispin, and Lyle Jepson. And our show brought to you by the Rutland County Agricultural Society. Don't forget the fair's coming up August 13th through 17th. Get your Tyler Hubbard tickets today. Just go to ParamountVT.org and order them. I believe that will be a sold-out show for sure. So I thought maybe we could just recap, go back a little bit. I wanted Lyle to talk too about if you're interested in becoming a member of CEDRR, how to do that, and then we could talk a little bit more about the mixers coming up and the Whoopie Pie Festival for sure in September. So whoever wants to grab the mic.
Yep, I'll jump in on the membership.
Yep.
One of our goals at CEDRR is to provide opportunities to support and add value to businesses, not only in Rutland, but throughout Rutland County. And we are a membership organization, and what we want to do is make sure that the members know that we are there to support them and provide them with resources and benefits that will help them thrive not only now but into the future. So one of our goals is to have myself go out and talk to businesses. Our current members, I go out and I talk to them. I share information on how we can provide that support and to listen, to see what we can do to help them in the long run. But we're also looking for new members. There are a lot of businesses throughout the county who could benefit from some of the support that we have to offer. We have a lot of programs that we work with through the state, and we have a lot of local programming and benefits that we can offer. So if you are a business, no matter how large, no matter how small, and you would like to schedule a meeting to talk to me about potential membership in CEDRR, I would ask you to give me a call. I'd be glad to come over, sit down, chit-chat with you a little bit, and just share some information and see what we can do to help you out.
I can't imagine people not taking advantage of that.
A couple of other things that we can help with. We do have a loan fund through CEDRR. We also connect businesses with grant opportunities through the state and federal government. So we like to think of ourselves as the connectors. We'll connect the dots with you tell us what your need is, and we'll see if we can find a solution to that need.
Exactly.
We didn't even talk about the mint yet today, but that's something we could probably spend a half hour or 45 minutes talking about.
Yeah, and if you haven't had Kim Griffin come in and talk to you, she is the executive director down there. All sorts of things going on this summer down there. A lot of education and training opportunities. They have all the cool tools. And if you are a tinkerer to a manufacturer, you can find the tool you need. They have, again, lots of educational opportunities. They're working with Vermont Works for Women. They work with the Rutland Area Robotics Group. There's just a lot going on.
How about recap some of the events coming up in July?
Okay. We have a ribbon cutting at Kaleidoscope Art Supply on Center Street, Tuesday, July 9th at 11 a.m. That same evening, we have a mixer at Four Seasons Sotheby's International Real Estate, which is always a great event from 5 to 7. August mixer will be up at Killington Resort at the K1 Lodge. Yep. And then we definitely want to highlight again the Whoopie Pie Festival, Saturday, September 14th. It has been designated this year as a Vermont signature event. So we want to build on the 5,000 plus people that attended last year. So the state will be helping us market the event, and we're looking for another really exciting event. And again, looking for Dream Maker Bakers to create a 900-pound Whoopie Pie for us.
Yeah, we're going to beat those Down Easters yet. Maine holds the record in the country for that, but we won't beat them this year, but because they're over 1,000, right?
Exactly, 1,062 pounds.
Yeah. Are you looking for people to help out with the festival?
We will be sending out information, and we are looking for volunteers. We often look for people to come help out throughout the course of the day. We also will be looking for locations to share the largest Whoopie Pie with after the event. Last year, we had quite a few nonprofits that we delivered Whoopie Pie to so that they can distribute to their clientele. So we'll be looking for more to help in that situation also.
Yeah, I did want to mention that because a lot of people will say, well, my goodness.
Yeah.
With 700 pounds, some of that must go to waste, but it doesn't.
No. We were able to deliver a lot to Brock, to the Vermont Food and Farm Center, United Methodist Church, the Open Door Mission. So we often look for locations that can benefit from it, because there will be a lot left over if you come down and see a 900-pound whoopie pie. We do distribute quite a bit out that evening as well, but definitely we want to make sure that there's no waste.
And shout out to Brock. They let us use their freezer so that we can immediately freeze it, and then Chrispin delivers the following couple days.
Boy, you are a busy guy.
Yeah, it's what I do, but it's great. I love it.
We mentioned a couple of shows ago, Bill Lucci joining your staff. We only have about a minute, maybe a minute and a half left. And I don't want to put you on the spot, but are you ever looking for new employees? Because he's obviously a very good addition.
Oh, he's a rock star, and he will be running the co-starter program through the Startup Rutland program. He is bringing in lots of folks to use the space. He's doing the View from the Top podcast. If you have not heard that yet, just Google View from the Top Rutland, and I'm sure you'll find it. We right now are not looking for employees, but it's interesting that when we came together as the Chamber and Reddick to become CEDRR, we had 5 people working for us at that point. We now have 10 people working for us, and so we have seen some considerable growth. I don't imagine that will continue in that trajectory moving forward, but I bet we're going to grow in a couple different areas soon.
Yeah, well, you've got some tremendously talented people. I don't mean to signal or make mention of Bill Lucci and not others. Cooper Babbitt also obviously is a super guy and very smart. And he and Bill were on the show at one point. You guys were tied up, I think, that one time, and I was really impressed with him. So yeah, there's some really cutting edge people that you have working for you for sure.
We have a deep bench, and we're excited about that.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I can't thank you enough. It's been a pleasure to have you on. Again, Lyle Jepson, the Executive Director of CEDRR, and Chrispin White, who's in charge of the events, but also apparently delivers.
As well.
So CEDRR, again, is the Chamber and Economic Development of the Rutland region. They're doing a fantastic job. Hopefully you're getting an idea, folks listening, of just how poised we are in the Rutland County area for some success that'll be unparalleled, I think, both with the project up at Killington, the one in downtown, and all the work that's been done and being done. So hopefully, you're enjoying the show, and we will look for you again next week on Catamount Community Connection.